Well, the next Starfield DLC might be a whole lot more than just a DLC, even new findings that aren't in my current upload that I want to discuss with you. I have an upload right now called Starborn DLC, or Is It More? Make sure and check out that upload. We always start every day in morning coffee with members. That's a great reason to be a member. You can start the day as well as end the day with me, but we have new information as well. Looking at the trademark for Starborn, it is far more reaching than the Shattered Space trademark. So if you just kind of want to contrast the two, Shattered Space is the currently announced DLC for Starfield set to come out this year. Currently, we don't have much more details than that, but Starborn includes things like toys, merchandise, clothing, almost as if it's a more far-reaching trademark that they have bigger plans for that could coincide then with some of my theories in that video. Now, I walk through a lot in that video, so be sure to check it out. I look at Todd Howard's remarks, I look at the way that the Starborn lore plays a part in the game, as well as New Game Plus, and I kind of try to tie all that together. Contrasting the trademarks, I wish I would have had time for that, you know, I was a little busy, so I was making sure that you guys got a video today, and I didn't quite have time to look at the differences between the trademarks, but that's the beauty of this live show, is that we can discuss that now and maybe come up with some more theories about what exactly is going on. Why would Bethesda file for a more far-reaching trademark than the one that they filed for Shattered Space? Maybe there's just a merch push, maybe there's something more going on, because as I contend in the video, I really do think a separate game for Starfield that essentially functions as Starfield Online is a very high possibility, and maybe that's why they want to have merch, maybe that's why they want to have toys, t-shirts, and the like. So make sure every day here at Reforge Gaming, make sure you're subscribed, bell button, so you can watch those videos, so that way you know what I think. And now it's time to hear what you think. So good morning and good afternoon and good evening. Guys, go through that daily ritual. Smash that like button. We haven't talked Starfield in a little over a month, and I actually thought this was a pretty cool development. Not necessarily because I'm playing the game right now. I've continued to say that I believe Starfield can have a comeback moment. We were discussing it in the members-only Discord this morning. Fuzzy said he feels like they've got a bit of a hill to climb. And I said, look, man, Phantom Liberty turned Cyberpunk's numbers around, because he was looking at the Steam charts. In the last 24 hours, Starfield peaked at about 6,000 players, close to 7,000 players. And Cyberpunk was around hitting 20 to 30,000 player peaks right before Phantom Liberty came out. And they went up from 20 or 30,000 player peaks to peaks of 250 to 270,000. So you can have a significant uptick of engagement and excitement in your game if you do your big DLC turnaround moment right. So I've continued to say that I feel Starfield can have that moment. I've got a video on this channel saying Starfield is just getting started. I've got one called Rising from the Ashes, because I do believe there's more to this game than we are currently seeing. I think they have bigger plans for this game, so I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. Wesley Mitchell says Starborn equals Fallout Worlds from 76. You go into Unity, you join a universe, or randomly inserted into a public one. That's not a bad theory. I kind of thought they would try to utilize the jumping into a new universe as a more seasonal function. They would almost say, hey, this is a great and easy way to sort of reset the player, you know, every so many months, as sort of an ongoing function. Because right now, whenever you have seasonal content, there is that great debate of how do you reset the player without upsetting them. I think in this, you wouldn't necessarily need to upset the player. You would just have people, you know, travel to a new area, have new things to do that would then be contextual to that universe. So your weapons and ship and gear wouldn't necessarily be invalidated, but maybe in that universe, there would be weapons and gear that were stronger on those particular planets and in those, you know, against those particular enemies. Yo, what's good, Head Killer? Kind of feel like they need to make the base game more fleshed out and enjoyable before making more universes. More of the same isn't going to move the needle. I feel like this would be something separate, Bumblepants. I also think we don't really... I think for me, the jury is currently deliberating on whether or not Starfield can have a comeback moment, right? That we haven't seen the verdict yet. I mean, generally, the gaming community has issued a verdict that Starfield was not very good, right? That's readily viewable. Any of the review scores on any of the places that you look, whether the Xbox store or the Steam store. However, you know, I do think in similar fashion to how Cyberpunk was decried as largely pretty terrible as well. I know there's longstanding fans who disagree, and that's totally fine. But the general gaming public had pretty much said Cyberpunk was not where it should have been. Similar with No Man's Sky. And I think Starfield stands in a similar place. This is one of the reasons why I've really pressed on people to say it's okay to admit the game fell short. It's okay because it makes the comeback story more exciting, right? Whether you look at No Man's Sky or Cyberpunk or any of these other titles that really sort of dug down deep and said, listen, we're going to fix this. We're going to make this better. I don't think that argument is as potent if you act like there's nothing wrong with the game. So I do disagree with them. I still think Starfield is really good or great. You are totally allowed to think that. I think I respect the position more if you admit flaws or shortcomings. Like, you're allowed to enjoy the game or think it's good or great, but I don't think we should gloss over the game's shortcomings. Some of the design choices that didn't seem to be that innovative or seemingly just were sort of, you know, copy, pasted, lifted one-to-one from previous Bethesda titles. You know, I do. I think it's good to at least admit, like, man, they've got a lot of things they need to work on and fix. I mean, their patches and their updates don't make a whole lot of sense if the game didn't fall short in a lot of those categories. Why would you dedicate so many resources? Jason F. just put a thumbs up comment on the video. Let's see what some of the comments are saying. Brooklyn Breed says, I'm going to be from being a Dragonborn to a Starborn. Let's go. The names certainly seem similar, right? They do. They seem similar. It's like, certainly seem similar because people brought that up yesterday. They're like, well, they've done this before. They did a Dragonborn DLC. Didn't London just come out? Did Fallout get much? I've not been following the Fallout London story. I know they had to push it back just a teeny bit. Mile High says, I was there for the birth of this hypothesis. Love Writer's Room. Thank you. I appreciate you guys supporting the channel directly like that. Force of Will renews his membership for 12 months. It's a member plus. Lono, thanks for a year of amazing content, well-articulated arguments, awesome community, and great coffee. Guys, we are going to change how the goal shows up. I'm still going to gift 5 every 25, but we're going to put the weekly goal over here so it's not always rolling forward, so you get a better picture of what we're targeting that week. Charles Freeman also gifts a member, and that is going to be the first gifted member of the day. Force of Will was the first renewal. Han shot first, and so did you. And Han shot first, and so did you, Charles Freeman, as you did the first gifted member of the day, moving things along. Every Friday night now, you guys can turn into a community game night. No matter what, Madam and I will stream, but you guys can play a game with us if you hit the goal. And we thought that was good feedback from the community. So all the members that have been taking part in those town halls, thank you for doing that. Lone Wolf says, I don't give a crap about the lack of innovation, the loading screens, the exploration's kind of but I'm not the biggest on exploring Bethesda games anyways. Right, like, I think sometimes, like, if I enjoy a game, I'm actually more prone to be critical of a game if I enjoy it. People have pointed that out, right? And Force of Will with the 10 bomb makes the member count jump quite a bit on the week to 38. Look at that. Thank you so much. Force of Will starting the day strong. True to his name, he renews his membership, but then shows he's a Force of Will and drops 10 members. Thank you so much. You guys that gift like that, it supports the channel directly. If you've been gifted a membership, welcome to the community. That's what that does. For an entire month, you can hang out in all the extra content as well as our Discord. This person thinks Starfield's the best game ever, unironically. I don't mind if somebody thinks it's a great game. I would just be curious, do they have any lists of criticisms or shortcomings? Right? Like I said, when I enjoy a game, I tend to be more critical. I tend to find things to be critical of. So I would be curious. I don't know who you're talking about. I'm not familiar with that name, but that would be my first question to them. Do you have a list of shortcomings at all? Is there anything about the game that you think really fell short? or should have been better. Didn't they win an award for most innovative game? The Steam vote was a troll. People were trolling. It didn't win an innovation award at the Game Awards or anything like that. That was the people on Steam trolling. That it has a terrible score on Steam. That is not... Listen, if you think Starfield has been innovative, then I would like you to substantiate the opinion and point out where it was innovative, because it truly just did not. In most areas, it's just like their other games. They didn't change much of anything with how inventory works, with how skills work. With the dialogue I liked. I did think they were a little bit innovative there, and I thought the dialogue system was better. Even picking locks is largely the same as it's always been. It's just a little bit, digitized. I actually thought the lockpicking was really cool, but I just don't think there were high levels of innovation in the game. And Charles Freeman gifts 5 members. Thank you so much for growing the community just like that. More and more people able to come in and enjoy more content, and 7 away from me having to gift 5 members as well. Every 25 I give 5 on the road to the weekly goal. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the game, just wish it was multiplayer. I tend to agree with you. I think multiplayer is perfect for games like this. I don't necessarily think you want to build your campaign around that, but I certainly think you can build something maybe on the side. Kind of what we're proposing is what Starborn could be. Lone Wolf says, I do have criticisms. Most of them are minor and are things I don't care about as much. I'm glad they're adding to help fix some of the issues that other people have. Have you read the Steam reviews? Many times I've sampled the Steam reviews. What do you want me to find in the Steam reviews? Do you think that do you think the Steam reviews are not legitimate? There are people that think that. You're welcome to think that. I don't have a whole lot of respect for that position. I don't. I think it's an anti-intellectual position to disregard that many reviews. I'm curious always why people want to do that. We don't really do that with any other game on Steam. We seemingly only do that with Starfield for whatever reason. Hot Like Robot said, not sure about Starborn, but just kitted out my game with the Star Wars mods. Pretty dope. 30 did the same thing. Yeah, 30 and Still Gaming did the same thing. He's been loving the game with the Starfield mods. Victor says, after the last update, I finally went back and finished the faction quest in the main story. I wanted to prepare for the Shattered Space DLC. I may be in the minority, but I don't like the use of multiverse and resetting as a way to enter New Game Plus. I plan on staying in my universe at least through the DLC, whether the game will make it. What about Starfield Online? Like, would you be willing to do that in Starfield Online in a more online environment as far as like seasonally updating? Fat Lump says, I love the idea of seasonal updates to Starfield that are like a new universe or versions of the universe with new weapons, quests, modifiers. I hope that's something they're looking to do in the future. If those updates were of good quality, I would definitely return to play them. With all the empty planets they are in the universe, this could be a great opportunity for curated content. Agreed. Victor Mayhem hits 39 months, says, I was terribly disappointed by Starfield. I wanted this to be a game I played for years, but it fell well below expectations. The decisions are not impactful. Using a multiverse for replay is lazy. And that takes the line to 44. I don't agree with everything you're saying, Victor. I mean, I'm with you on it being a disappointment, but I don't agree that multiverse is lazy. Now, I'm not going to get into the Marvel discussion about multiverse undercutting impactful story beats and character development and the culmination of stories, right? I know that's a big dialogue point right now. Let's kind of set that aside. This is not a movie TV channel. However, I think in a game like Starfield, it's acceptable to do something with multiverse because typically in a game like this, when you do New Game Plus, nothing really changes. Like if we're going to contrast the two most common approaches to New Game Plus, well, I mean, I guess I shouldn't say most common. I see sort of two roads for New Game Plus. On one road, you just sort of replay the game with all your stuff. But with the multiverse, they can make minor adjustments and changes, so it is a slightly different experience, and they have lore reasons for that. I actually think that's more creative than lazy. I don't agree with your perspective. I mean, I can see why you would think that. It might feel lazy, but how many New Game Plus experiences are literally just, yeah, you can replay the game a second time, it's a little bit harder, and you have all your stuff now. And you're like, oh, thank you. That was very thoughtful and robust and substantive. You know, it's just a 2.0 run through the game. Visual Walkthrough said, they said 1 DLC a year. This sounds great, but keep the game growing. More players, the game will only get better. It needs that comeback moment, though. I don't think you can just keep adding content. It needs a comeback moment. It needs a turnaround. Patrick Q gifts a member and takes us to 45. And yes, guys, we are going to just start putting the weekly goal down there, but I'm still going to gift every 25. So thank you so much for gifting that member to Big Evil, Patrick Q. I hope they make this game a big comeback, kid, says Noah. Could be super good with Bethesda gunplay and mission structure and take some influence from the greatest space game out right now, No Man's Sky. I tend to agree with you. It's like, I actually think they could use just a little dash of No Man's Sky. That's behind some of my thoughts on seasonal content and the Starborn and, you know, new universes and things of that nature. You know, I don't want it to become No Man's Sky, but there could certainly be some influence there, you know. UK Gamer left a comment here, and he said, I've tried countless times to get back into Starfield, and I just can't do it. It's a shame, really, because the idea of it excites me as a gamer, but it just doesn't deliver. I'm all for them continuing to work on the game, though. I mean, I get that. I don't think it's a game for everybody, you know. Roadkill says, hit the like button. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you guys haven't hit the like button on today's live stream, always remember to leave a comment and hit a like button on the upload as well. That definitely supports the video in a big way. This guy says, I have a dying urge to jump back into Starfield, even though I was disappointed by the game, except on PC instead of the Series S this time. I will once the DLC comes out. I think that's a good plan. I think it's a good plan that if you're considering getting back into Starfield, yeah, I would wait for Shattered Space. Let them do as much as they possibly can, and then maybe you'll feel differently about it. Citizen JV says, this could be a 2.0 moment for Starfield if they don't screw it up. I actually agree with you. Whether or not it's Shattered Space, or if it's Shattered Space, or if it's the Starborn content as well, I think there's a variety of things that they could do, you know, to boost excitement and engagement and an intrigue into Starfield. I don't think Starfield can see the comeback glory of No Man's Sky, says Firebrand. No Man's Sky was lacking on content and features on release, but Starfield, as much as I love it, is flawed from a game engine POV. I don't have the ability to disagree with you because, number one, I don't know the ins and outs of the creation engine. I only know what people have said. And so based on what people have said, my instinct is to be like, yeah, I think you're right. I think the engine poses a significant problem. Now, we know that ZeniMax Online is working on a brand new AAA IP, and they're working on a new engine for it. And a 5-bomb from Belphegor takes us to 50. Thank you so much. That's 5 more people getting to join the community for the month, man. They get into extra streams. They get into the Discord. But every 25, I owe you 5. I'm going to give 5 right now as a thank you. If you guys get a gifted membership, be sure to say thank you and consider upgrading to Member Plus. It turns you into a paying member, and it supports the channel directly, and it gets you into more content as well. I definitely don't know if I have any faith in Bethesda left to do a comeback. I think their Bethesda magic ran out a while ago. Starfield lacks the it factor. I mean, I think it has the factor of a foundation that's large. I think that gives them a lot of space. Now, that obviously can be very, very daunting. If you're trying to turn a game around and it has this gigantic foundation and that foundation feels, you know, shaky, or if the foundation is flawed, then, you know, you're probably going nowhere. So I think their Bethesda magic ran out when Microsoft bought them. I don't know if, I mean, I think that certainly had an effect on Starfield, but I don't feel like belaboring that point. I think it's more obvious than ever that Starfield had to pump the brakes on a lot of things, and that Xbox had to help them get the game ready for the Series S. I just think that's so easy to see now that there's no reason to retread that discussion. The Bethesda magic ran out with Skyrim, and people saw it slipping with Skyrim. the interesting thing is that people that think that tend to be longer tail fans. For me, I got introduced to Bethesda criticism with Fallout 4. So I played Skyrim, had no issues, played Fallout 4. I had some bugginess and some things, but that was the first time I was introduced to people that were very, very critical of Bethesda. I was streaming it. This is a long time ago. Like 10 years ago now. Fallout 4's release date is the easiest way for me to remember when I started streaming. 2015, so almost 10 years ago, sorry. Almost 10 years ago. So, and that was the first time I was like, oh wow, people are really critical of Skyrim and people are really critical of Fallout. Like what in the world's going on here? Just BGS haters, and yet Fallout 4 is an award-winning game. Yeah, I remember that. I remember being kind of confused. I was like, I'm kind of having a good time with Fallout 4. Like, why is everybody being so harsh? But I remember at that time being on a podcast with 30 and Still Gaming and his brother, Sergeant McCluskey, and McCluskey was like, it's clear that the engine is showing its age. Like, it's time for a new engine, So he said that 9 years ago, right? And I think people are saying that today still. They're like, okay, you guys have got to do something different here with this engine. You've got to figure something out that is, but at the same time, there's people that push back and they're like, but the creation engine is part of the charm. It's part of their ability to do, persistent objects, and the modding community can do so much with it. Games are so complex now, and having to cater for different platforms, it's rare to see a perfect game with a perfect release like back in the day. It's tough times for the gaming industry. And there's the Agent of Chaos pushing us to 51. Thank you so much. That means the next 25 is on the ticket now. If we hit 75, I'll get 5 more. Thank you, Joker Quinn. And it goes to Suede. Isn't there something to be said for every new Bethesda player likes the next game less than the one they started with? Shows a gradual decline, in my opinion. I mean, I think at one level that's probably true. I also think at another level there's always the first album effect. Like sometimes the first album that you hear becomes your favorite because it's the catalyst of enjoying a band, and then the subsequent albums or even the older albums maybe you don't like as much. Now that's not a hard and fast rule, but that's something that I've known has been true in my own life. And my experience from my experience from Skyrim to Fallout 4, I didn't feel that. So I don't know if we're dealing with romantic, long-standing fans who are like, oh, this just doesn't quite deliver the feeling that I used to get, It sounds like we're talking about the Tiger engine, for sure. Wouldn't a modern engine struggle even more on the Series S? I mean, it depends. If it's an engine that's very agile and you can turn a lot of things off, I don't know, YouTube going through it. Oh, you guys having some issues today? I feel like things haven't been quite right, both yesterday and today. I would say today especially, it's like, this doesn't seem quite like what I should be seeing. But, I've had people leaving comments saying, I haven't seen your videos for months. So I'm like, I'm not sure. I said, sometimes that's on you. It depends on what you've been watching. If you watch a lot of a certain type of content, you're going to push me off your homepage. Yo, Ganks with the VIP says, move the line. He says, move that line, and bumps it to 52. Give me 2 seconds to open the door. The AC's not kicking on just yet. It's too early in the day. YouTube said that the live shut down. Really? It told you that the live was not live. Interesting. I just went to it on another browser, and I'm going to go to it on my mobile, and seems to be fine in those environments. Not sure what the issue is. That's YouTube's been having some issues with live streams lately. I don't know what they're trying to do, but it has been very awkward. We've had chat freezes. We've had likes not counting. I think they're trying to push out some updates, and it's just causing some issues. Just joined after listening to the premiere. Great opening. Thank you, D-Tom. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys supporting those live streams. I appreciate you guys supporting those live streams. Is just me or is your mic crackling? I'm listening right now through mic monitoring. I don't hear anything. So Could be your TV, could be YouTube. Hard to know. I needed to reload the stream because it didn't start on its own. Wonderful. Always good to hear that, you know, we've been streaming on the platform for 4 years and they still haven't ironed some of those issues out. I am sorry if you guys are having issues and you're having a refresh. I wish if I could press a button to fix it, I obviously would. So, thoughts on the 10-year commentary? What 10-year commentary specifically, Eugene? What Todd Howard said, or have you said something in response? Like when he talked about how, in the interview with Matty Plays, Todd Howard said, you know, he wished they had supported Skyrim and Fallout 4 for longer, and when they were approaching Starfield, they basically approached it with a similar mindset as Fallout 76. They want to have like a 10-year horizon. Ronald left a comment here saying, Ronaldo de la Cruz says, I don't think overall the game is all right. It's too good for me. It's just boring. I don't know if patches or DLC could fix that. DLC could. It did for me with Cyberpunk. So yeah, I think a DLC could. I don't think patches will. What Todd said. Yeah, I mean, my viewpoint of what Todd said is that if they're planning to do things for 10 years with Starfield, then I would think you have to have some sort of an online component. You know? You'd need some level of an online component or an ongoing component. Maybe I'm a cynic here. Feel free to prove me wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about this, okay? So feel free to prove me wrong. This is just my initial thought. I just have a really hard time envisioning a single-player game getting supported for 10 years. That seems odd to me, right? Like a content delivery and a cadence of content and updates and DLC for 10 years. So in 2034, they're going to be like, hey, we got another DLC coming out for Starfield. You know? Yeah, Pete Hines retired from the industry. He posted a picture of him holding the jersey the other day. I think he's enjoying his retirement. Like I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm like, well, prove me wrong. Has anybody done this successfully? Has anybody justified creating content for a single player game for 10 years? You just need mods? No, I'm not talking about mods. I'm talking about Todd Howard saying that they want to have a 10-year horizon. No Man's Sky is on 8. I said a single-player game. No Man's Sky is not a single-player game. No Man's Sky has turned into, essentially, a live service game. It's a multiplayer game. You can play with others. You can have community planets. The way they do their expeditions is, like, 100% lifted from, 100% lifted from Diablo 3 Seasons. Skyrim and Fallout 4? No. That you guys are not giving me examples of a developer being incentivized and successfully supporting a game with content for 10 years. You're talking about games that utilize mods. Mods are a big part of the plan. See, the mistake that you're making, Infinite, is Todd Howard literally said, I wish we would have supported Skyrim and Fallout 4 for longer, and he contrasts that with Starfield and says, when we approached Starfield, we had the same mindset we did with Fallout 76. We need to have a 10-year horizon. If what you're saying is true, then his sentence makes no sense. Final Fantasy 14... All right, I'm going to say this again. I feel like maybe, is the mic crackling? Am I getting muted randomly? Is my mic off randomly? Let's make sure my mic's working. A single-player game. Is there a single-player game that has gotten support for 10 years from the developer, like adding content, adding DLC? I'm not talking about mods. Skyrim had a new DLC like 2 years ago. Skyrim had a Bethesda created, Bethesda sold, Bethesda released DLC 2 years ago. What was it called? I'm not talking about mod support. Todd Howard said, I wish we would have supported Skyrim and Fallout 4 longer. He doesn't consider like people doing mods. He's talking about them. He's talking about Bethesda. Like, do you see what I'm saying? I'm asking a very specific question. You guys are giving me, multiplayer games and MMOs. That was an update, not a DLC. Sims 4. Okay. Sims 4. EA likes to make and spend $40 every month for my wife. Okay, so Sims 4 is an example of a single-player game that has been supported for a super, super long time, right? Selling content. We have one. Are there any other examples? Master Chief Collection? I mean, that has a multiplayer component. That has an online component. He was cutting the mic on purpose to make a point. I was totally trolling. Oh my gosh. I was pushing the mute button to be silly. What studio supported a single-player game for 10 years? What? That's the point that I'm trying to make. What I'm saying is that it's odd. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm saying it's strange or it's rare. So we've got Sims 4 and Stardew Valley. Yeah, is Sims considered a single-player game? Isn't there an online component to Sims? You guys are saying Sims 4. So Sims 4 doesn't have any multiplayer? They have seasonal activities. Sims 4 is a free-to-play social simulation game developed by Maxis and published by EA. Can you play multiplayer in that game? Can you play with other people? Sims 4 download for free. I'm not give me the intel on it. I can't tell from the Google search whether or not it's got online. I've never played. I mean, I played Sims back in the day, I think, for an afternoon goofing. Okay, it is just purely single player. Okay. Oh, Sims 4 has an online mod. Okay. The Last of Us. I mean, it's kind of true. New content. Not remasters and remakes. That was a good answer, though. Okay, so there's no multiplayer with Sims. Okay, so we have Sims 4. Okay. That's it. We have Sims 4. At some level, I think that proves the point that, like, this is abnormal. I don't think what Todd is advocating for, I don't think what Todd is outlining or saying is common. I think it's uncommon. Right? If you're going to support a single-player game with substantive content for 10 years and it's not online, there's no online, right? That to me points to they're either doing something that is very uncommon, very rare, which I think is risky, or there's going to be some type of an online component at some point in the future for Starfield. Whether or not it's something separate like the Elder Scrolls Online or Fallout 76, a single-player game receiving substantive paid-for DLC for 10 years, we've got one game, Sims 4 as an example. Virtually every other game that has made it longer than just a couple of years, they do not sit there and say, oh yeah, we're just a single player game. The longest running games that do this type of content are online games, whether they are MMOs like World of Warcraft, EverQuest, Final Fantasy XIV, or they're live service games like The Division and Destiny. And I believe that No Man's Sky has essentially turned itself into a live service game, or, Diablo 3 and now Diablo 4. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying it's hard to find an example of a single-player game doing that. It really is. And I think one of the reasons is you're likely going to get depreciating returns of purchase. It's very likely. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. You're very likely going to get depreciating returns of purchase. So in like 5 years, you're like, hey, here's another DLC coming out for our game. And people are like, I'm not playing your game anymore. I moved on from your game. I beat it. Victoria 2 and Civilization. Yeah, I feel like games like Sims and Civ games, I feel like those are the types of games that when you think of like, oh, that's a single-player game that keeps getting content, I think it makes more sense for those games to continue to add to their existing game, and they don't necessarily need to have an online component. But I think when you look at a game like Starfield, I don't see almost any other game doing it. You've got to be in a very particular category to pull that off, I think. Civ makes new games before 10 years. Civ may have multiplayer, but it's not a multiplayer game. Yeah, I don't know if Civ would be... I mean, there's an online component. There's a multiplayer component, but I don't know if that would be considered a multiplayer game. Can we call a game live service if there's literally 0 microtransactions? Genuinely asking. I don't think the definition of live service needs microtransactions, Brett, because if it's an ongoing game with rhythmic content, then that's a live service game. Just because Hello Games is like, we're not going to charge for anything, that doesn't mean it's not a live service game. I mean, they're literally doing expeditions almost identical one-to-one copied from how Diablo does it. I don't think you need to charge money in order to be considered live service. I think Todd sees how they can support it with content and updates, but also mod support alongside of that. Mod support is symbiotic with what they do. Have people seen Skyrim modded here? Right, but Infinite, you once again seem to be like just very much sidestepping how he phrased it. I don't think he's envisioning mod support. If it's, oh yeah, we just have mod support, then he wouldn't have invoked Skyrim and Fallout 4 and been like, we should have supported those games for longer. He's talking about adding content. He's not talking about like, oh, we should have made, you know, updates and patches and supported the mods in Skyrim and Fallout 4 for longer. That's not what he's saying. If that's what he's saying, then it doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, wait, his sentence structure breaks if that's what he means. If he means, oh yeah, we want to support Starfield long term with mod support. It's like, I don't understand. You did that with Skyrim and Fallout 4. Your sentence structure now makes no sense. No Man's trying to copy Cyberpunk. In what way do you think No Man's Sky is trying to copy Cyberpunk? I watched the Concern meme live. There it is. Starfield didn't have modding tools at launch. They're adding them. It passed off the modders. Huh? Do you mean it ticked off the modders? Skyrim, Fallout 4, and Fallout 76 are a different engine than Starfield. What? Wait, what do you mean they're on a different engine? You mean that Starfield's on an updated version of the creation engine? They're monetizing the mods pretty well. They're copying Cyberpunk's radical idea of improving the game. Witcher 3 has been supported for 8. That's pretty close. When's the last time The Witcher 3 added substantive paid-for content? When was the last time? I'm not talking about updates and patches. I'm talking about selling content, adding to the game. When was the last time that The Witcher 3 did that? Starfield's on the new engine. Come on, Todd Howard, is that you? It's an updated version of the engine. For Pete's sakes, people, it's a creation engine. Come on. That's why the modders were able to make preparations. It's not a new engine. Come on. Stop that. I don't even think Todd Howard has said it's a new engine. I don't even think the man himself has gone that far. I think it's like, what's an updated engine? Creation Engine 2.0 or whatever they called it. The last Witcher DLC was 2016. Yeah, thank you. Come on. That's 8 years ago. I'm talking about... I asked the question very specifically because I think that's what Todd Howard is indicating. I don't think he's indicating patches and updates and mod support. He invoked Skyrim and Fallout 4 and said he wished they would have supported them longer. He then invokes Fallout 76 and says, we took basically a similar mindset with Starfield. You have to have a 10-year horizon. That is a very, very different thing. He's talking in a different way. He's talking in a very... It's almost like a different paradigm or a different worldview. It's like, yeah, I wish we would have supported those games longer than we did. And we're looking at things with a 10-year horizon now. Fallout 76 is kind of how, we were looking at Starfield. That's not them. That's not Todd saying we're going to do patches and updates and mod support for 10 years. I get what you're saying. I'm just saying Todd from the start had said they're going to support mods and modders more than past games. Right. In the context of where he said what he said, though, he wasn't speaking about mods and supporting the modding community. Wait, do Monster Hunter games count, or are they live service? Yeah, Monster Hunter has co-op. It has online components. I mean, a strictly single-player game getting, handcrafted, bespoke content for 10 years is not normal. It isn't. It just doesn't feel normal to me. That seems to me to be either a completely new plan, right? It's a completely new plan. They're trying something completely new, or they're, or again, there's going to have to be some level of an online component. There's going to be some level of like an ongoing component or ongoing element. I don't think you support a game for 10 years and just, and just keep it at the it's just a single player game. Yeah, we're doing DLC like 7 years from now. They're like, yep, here's your annual DLC for Starfield. That to me does not seem like what he's talking about. I really don't think so. I mean, I know we're talking about the game in previous content, and other people have now confirmed that they have also heard it's going multi-plat. Even then, I don't think that the game would be in a good position to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna just keep adding DLC for forever. You have to be able to justify that from a business perspective. You're adding content. You're trying to sell content. You can't do that and get bad results. You can't. You need people to buy it. You need people playing. And I don't think single-player games, you know what I mean? I don't think single-player games go that far, typically. I think the other part of it is their worlds take a long time to build. Look at the wait between Elder Scrolls. Fans of those franchises want to continue to see their worlds evolve. There's been new news on multiplat. There's been guys that are Xbox guys that have claimed that they've heard from people in the know that Starfield is going multiplat. I didn't cover it. It was obviously hilarious. Like, there's elements of humor in people that attacked me, having to eat crow and be like, yeah, I heard that it's happening, I don't expect anybody's going to line up to apologize or make amends, but yeah, that was a development in the last couple of weeks that, people are claiming that, like, yeah, I'm in the know. I've got people that would know, and they're saying it's coming. So even if you do that, even if you bring Starfield to PlayStation, I don't think that when you do that, you suddenly have this, this 10-year long tail support for substantive content. I think that that's abnormal for a single player game to do that and to do it successfully. We talking about Todd says it's the same engine, it's been updated. Yeah, they've been pretty transparent about the fact that, guys, it's the same engine. It's not a new engine. I don't know if he's said specifically in an interview, Todd Howard Starfield engine. Todd Howard had said that it runs upwards of 50 FPS. I don't know if he specifically spoke to the engine when he said that, right? Did he say in the quote, let me see here. We're happy with the new engine. It took us so long to do. That's just such a generic statement. Is there any other times where he has answered direct questions about the engine? That's just like a passing, like, yeah, it's the new engine. Starfield's new creation took so long to do, so people were running with him saying that. Todd Howard says creation engine overhaul for Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 is the largest we've probably ever had. Here we go. We have more people doing engine work now by a factor of 5, Howard said. I'm reading from PC Gamer here. The overhaul on our engine is the largest we've probably ever had, maybe larger than the overhaul going from Morrowind to Oblivion. There you go. It's not a new engine. They overhauled and updated the creation engine. It's like going from Unreal 4 to 5. In essence, yes, that would be analogous to what we're talking about. That it is the same engine, it's just they have updated it. They didn't like switch to a new engine, right? If you switch your game from, like, this is what CD Projekt Red is doing. They're switching from the Red engine to Unreal 5. Now, I think, reading some of their comments, they will be going back to the Red engine at some point. But that's a new engine. You're switching to a new engine. You're going from the Red engine to the Unreal engine. Now, yes, Todd did say new engine in that one interview, but again, it's a passing remark. He's referring to the fact that this is the new version of creation engine. I don't think he's like trying to sell something that like, I don't think he's trying to trick anybody. I think he's just saying, hey, this is the new engine. This is our new creation engine. Rumors are it is coming. Overhaul is not the same as completely new. Well, and he could be using overhaul with a typical Todd Howard flourish. Like, they didn't create it from the ground up. They overhauled it. They updated it. You know what I mean? Overhaul doesn't mean they stripped it down to the studs and rebuilt it, you know? Like, if you completely strip down a boat and rebuild the boat, is it the same boat, right? The philosophical... I always forget that guy's name. The question of the essence of something. His use of the word overhaul doesn't necessitate that you got a brand new engine. It's the newest version of their engine. Guys, take a quick second and smash the like button. We're nearing the hour mark on the stream. Appreciate you being here. We had some people saying YouTube was acting up earlier, so double check your likes, do all those things. This week's goal is 500. We are going to change the way it shows up down here. Instead of constantly rolling the goal forward, somebody suggested yesterday in the member stream, like, just put the goal up and let us work on it throughout the week. I'm still gifting 5 every 25, so thank you to the people who got us to 50 already this morning. There's also a variety of ways to support the stream listed below in the description if you would like. The Ship of Theseus, that's what it is. Yeah, like the creation engine's not like the philosophical quandary of the Ship of Theseus. Like, they didn't strip down the engine and completely rebuild it so that you can quote unquote say it is a new engine. They updated the existing pieces and parts to be better. I think they can improve the game with creations. They allowed modders to list these mods and get paid with their DLC. I do not think that's what Todd Howard is talking about. I don't. His vision for Starfield is significantly bigger than, well, we're going to do DLCs and let the modding community support it. I don't think that's what he's saying. I don't think he's trying to convey that. I feel like he's conveying something with a longer tail. You know what I mean? I don't think he's like, yeah, DLC and mods. Starfield is stable on Xbox. What do you mean? You mean performance-wise, since they added the one update? Is that what you're referring to? I don't know if I would say stable. I mean, it's in the top 50, but Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 currently have more players on Xbox than Starfield. So does Farming Simulator 22. Starfield's only 2 spots above Skyrim. I don't know if I would throw confetti in the air for that. I don't know if I would throw confetti in the air that Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 are ranked higher and that Starfield's only 2 slots above Skyrim. That again, I think is not. That's not bashing the game. I do not think that game is if it's the triumph that many and some claim that it is to be, it wouldn't be sitting where it is. Now, I have continued to say it can be significantly better. It can have a turnaround moment. I believe that. I do. Cyberpunk was the game I was the absolutely most skeptical and cynical about. I was like, I don't think that game was ever going to be able to turn it around, and then they did it with Phantom Liberty. You know, there's I guarantee you that if they commit themselves and do the work and have a good DLC, you will see people come back to this game. You will. Todd has said they built it with modding in mind. I do think it's ambitious. They're trying to add yearly expansions for a decade. And that's where I don't think that's the plan. That's where my theory comes into play, Infinite. I don't think... Track with me here. I want you to track with me here. I do not think if they want to start building the next Elder Scrolls, I don't think they're going to be doing some big, massive DLC every year for Starfield. Starborn could be something that allows them to support the game for 10 years, but that doesn't mean you're getting like super substantive bespoke content every single year. Derek says, do these ideas about Starfield have much appeal to people who aren't already fans? I think Starfield's one of the most talked about games. I think if they're being celebrated as having a comeback moment, Cyberpunk was incredibly popular and highly talked about. Anytime I did a video on Cyberpunk, we got a ton of people to tune in. And similarly, that has happened with Starfield. So I think people would be like, oh, it's having a comeback. Yo, J-Man Games, welcome back in as a member. I agree, I'm just speculating, says J-Man. Fallout 76 got a lot more updates, improving it like they're planning with Starfield, but it's multiplayer, so we shall see. I am saying that I think it'll be mods, not DLC. I think that if somebody's saying it's just DLC, or if you're saying it's going to be mods, I think you're both wrong. I think there's going to be some form of an ongoing online component. That's what I think. Now, they could do that with the Starborn update. It could be a DLC that utilizes the ongoing nature of New Game Plus. It could be a stand-apart game like Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout 76. It could literally be called Starfield Starborn, or maybe just its own game called Starborn. I don't know. And then that's where you would go and play the game ongoing. You would become a Starborn, and that would be the premise of the online version of the game. Starfield already got multiple updates, greatly improving the game. I'm waiting for Shattered Space. And I would really, really like it if they're able to allow me to play Shattered Space without beating the entire game. You know what I'm saying? Wait, what's this guy saying? You guys are debating Filta? What's the issue with Filta here? Filta says GTA 4 and Red Dead Redemption 2 are not the same engine. Unreal 4 and 5 are not the same. I'm giving examples. I would say you're factually incorrect. This is not a matter of opinion. You're wrong. No one in the development world would agree with you. No one would say, oh, they're different engines. They would say, no, it's the same base engine that's been updated. You're incorrect. What you're saying is not a matter of subjective opinion. You can think that. You're thinking incorrectly. That's ignorant. That's uninformed. Anybody with a grasp on how engines work would say, no, you're incorrect. Those are considered the same engine. When Epic updates engine 4 to 5 with Unreal, and then they go 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, are you going to argue that 5.2 is a new engine and it's not the same as 5? That would be ludicrous to claim. That's not how engines work. It's not a new engine. It's not a new entity. It's building upon the previous engine. So it's just updated. It's not the same. I feel like that you could argue that point. I feel like that's just being pedantic. You know, Unreal 5 is not Unreal 4. You're not saying anything. I didn't say the engine was new. I said it's not the same. Those statements are virtually synonymous, homie. Like, you have to think about language. Yo, J-Man gifts a member. Thank you so much, and takes us to 53 members on the day. The next milestone is 75, and I'll get 5 and 2 spot from Rich Rod. Says, read my last, and he says, Cyberpunk had a way bigger fan base that stuck around through the bugs. Cyberpunk was a buggy mess. Starfield, simply boring game. I don't think they're the same. I think you're also incorrect, Rich Rod. I do. Do you want to know why? Bethesda is why you're wrong. Cyberpunk had anywhere from 20 to 30,000 player peaks before Phantom Liberty came out. 20 to 30,000. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. They jumped to 250, upwards of 270,000 player peaks with Phantom Liberty. Yeah? That's a big turn, right? I think Starfield can have the same turn. Why? Bethesda. I think Bethesda will pull because they've made Skyrim. They've made Fallout. They have a lot of fans that would say, hey, man, that Starfield game has really turned a corner. I think you're forgetting that Starfield's not a brand new IP from some plucky, developer. It's Bethesda. And I think that automatically makes people interested. They're like, hey, yeah, I'm hearing some pretty good things. Let's go dive back in. I mean, look at what happened with Cyberpunk. Going from 20 and 30,000 player peaks to 270,000, that's an enormous jump. I think similarly, you could go from, what is it now, like 8,000 player peaks on Starfield. I think you could jump up significantly from that. We've seen similar patterns with No Man's Sky. We have seen similar patterns with No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky will kind of settle into predictable numbers. I mean, let's take a look at No Man's Sky Steam charts. Let's kind of see the rhythm there. And everybody celebrates that as an enormous triumph. Okay? So, they're hitting 40,000 player peaks right now, all right? Prior to that, like in May of this year, they were hitting similar player peaks to Starfield right now, 6,000. And then they bumped up to 20,000. I'm not sure why. They must have done something in May to get everybody excited. And then in July and June, they settled right back down in the 7,000 or 8,000s, and then they spiked up in the 50,000 player peaks. Like, and I think they saw an enormous player surge. Was it PlayStation? Was that one of the charts where No Man's Sky had a huge surge of players? You for 100%, you can, I think, cause a resurgence in the player base with content. No Man's Sky is significantly less popular than Starfield with respect to, units sold, notoriety, people who know of Bethesda and think of Bethesda and think of their games. There are games that use parts of UE4 and UE5 together. The only way that's possible is because they're substantially the same. That's right. They're basically they're the same they're the same engine. One has been updated and has options and things that you can do in it. If you rebuild your house, it isn't the same house. Right. You don't have evidence that Unreal 5 was rebuilt from the ground up, nor do you have evidence that the creation was rebuilt from the ground up. You just checkmated yourself. You just checkmated your own point. These engines have not been rebuilt from the ground up. The method by which the creation engine was overhauled, or Unreal 4 to 5, is not a new engine. It is an updated version of the same engine. Therefore, you have people making games with pieces and parts of UE5 for the lighting and then UE4 for the other aspects of the game. That's something that we've seen in a handful of games lately. Unreal 5 isn't patched or updated for... Well, again, it's no, that's incorrect. Unreal 5 is an updated version of Unreal 4. It's the same base engine that they have updated. So I don't think that's a point worth arguing. What you're saying is factually incorrect. It's just your opinion. I guess because you want to act like Starfield is in a new engine, I guess, which we know isn't true. If it was in a new engine, the modders would not have been able to make the preparations that they made. They were able to make the preparations that they made because it's the same engine. It's the creation engine. It has been updated and now been labeled 2.0 or whatever. For No Man's Sky, it sounds like the peaks are for updates and expeditions. I would say that's likely very true, yes. If you add new appliances, flooring, paint, remove a few walls, it's the same house. If you tear it down and rebuild it, it's a new house. Right, and if you built a new engine from scratch, you would not have inherited institutional knowledge anymore. You wouldn't have people that are like, hey, I can make a mod for this engine. No, they'd have to completely start over. I do want to draw some attention, especially if you're fans of Starfield. Check out the shirt that I'm wearing. It is from Into the AM, and we partner with them and show off their shirts pretty much on a daily basis. And right now, they are having a basics sale. There's also up to 50% off on some other things as well, but they're having a basic sale of up to 40% off. Let's get you a full screen here. You can use code LONO. It's like an exploding astronaut. Use code LONO or go to intotheam.com/LONO. You can stack my code on top of their discounts and sales. Hang on, let me turn my cap card off. There it is, 40% off. So if they're ever having a sale, if they're ever having any kind of a deal, always stack my code on top. There are 17 hours left in their sale that they're having right now. So code LONO, intotheam.com/LONO. I appreciate them working with me. They just sent me a whole bunch of new shirts, and this was one of my favorites. I think this one looked awesome. I saved this. I was like, if we talk Starfield, I've got a good shirt for it. So thank you, Into the AM. He said that this is info anybody can look up. Hard to know because people port from UE4 to UE5 and take advantage of UE5 features, which requires more development itself. If you were just going straight from 4 to 5 with no upgrades, probably easy. Bethesda themselves say it's a new engine. No, Todd said new engine in a passing remark. He also said we have overhauled the engine. That sentence doesn't make any sense if it's a completely new engine, homie. That doesn't make any sense. Overhauling an engine, that sentence is nonsensical if it's new. Do you understand? Todd said verbatim the engine isn't the same. No. See, what you're doing is you're doing this like very pedantic, I'm going to take one comment and ignore other comments. And I think that's a terrible way to argue your point. If Todd Howard says in one interview, we overhauled the creation engine, and then in another interview, as a passing remark, he says new engine, we know what he's referring to. It's not a new engine. He's referring to the new version of the creation engine. We overhauled this engine. That sentence makes no sense if it's brand new or they're not the same. Come on. I feel like you're being pedantic. J-Man Games gift a member, and it goes to Filta, the one arguing this point so ardently, and takes us to 54 members on the day. Thank you so much. Todd saying he overhauled it is explaining its development. Yes, thank you for agreeing with me that he's explaining the fact that they overhauled an engine that already exists. You understand that in order for something to be overhauled, it must already exist. Ergo, it's the same engine. It exists here. Overhauled leads to this. What you're saying is it doesn't even, it's nonsensical. It's not even a sensible position. Bro's either a powerful troll or he's eating paste right now. I mean, that's a false dichotomy. I think he could just mean well and just, I think he means well. I just think he's not informed on it. I never disagreed with that. Then your position is incoherent. It's an incoherent position to say, here's the engine. It's been overhauled. It's now a new engine. It's not the same engine. It's like, what? No, it is the same engine. It's the same engine with new stuff. That's the whole point we've been arguing. When you say it's not the same, you're basically arguing, oh yeah, it's like going from the Unreal Engine to Decima. Those aren't the same engines. Those are different engines. It's an incoherent position to claim that the engine is the same, but it's also not the same. It's like, I don't understand what you're trying to communicate then. What's your overarching point? Sorry, that camera's white balance. There we go. It was way off. Malono says, pedantic, you're walking a thin line. No. I'm not upset with him. The engine isn't the same. This is a quote from Epic Games. The Unreal 5 engine introduces a series of changes, upgrades, and new features to the systems that made up Unreal Engine 4. Do you see? That's why what you're saying is nonsensical and incoherent. It doesn't, what you're saying is confusing, right? In order to communicate well, we have to have basic understandings of the words and the definitions that we're using. And for us to say Unreal 5 is not the same engine, that doesn't make any sense. Yes, it is. It's Unreal 4. It has been updated. It has been changed, upgraded, and altered so that now we have a new version. It's why they number them, homie. Unreal 4, Unreal 5. Why? Because it's the same. It's like when they patch a game and they give you patch 1.0 and then there's patch 2.0. Guess what? It's the same game. It's not a new game. You can't be like, well, Cyberpunk's not the same game because they had their 2.0 moment. No, it's the same game. It has been updated. That's the point that we're making. I'm not saying that you're absolutely 100% wrong. At some level, rhetorically, you're correct. What I'm saying is it's confusing because when we had somebody in here saying it's a new engine, that's confusing because it's like, wait a minute, I thought this was using the same engine as the previous Bethesda games. And it's like, it is. It's been updated. That's what's confusing about it. When you go that level of like, you said, let me go all the way back to when it started. I said it's not the same. I didn't say the engine was new. So you've been running with that it's not the same, it's not the same. Starfield is Creation Engine 2. And you also said, this is what started the debate, homie, and this is why words and phrases are so important. This is what set the firestorm of this debate. You said Skyrim, Fallout 4, and Fallout 76 are on a different engine than Starfield. That sentence is not helpful. It's not clear. It's confusing. That sounds like they're on different engines, and they're not. They're on the Creation Engine. Starfield's on the newest version of the Creation Engine. The word different engine implies something that you don't even believe. You don't even believe that. You don't even believe it's a different engine. You've acknowledged it's the same, and yet it's not. He types in all caps, exactly. Exactly that what? That you confuse everybody with a statement that isn't true? It's not the same engine, and it's a fact. Okay. Thank you, J-Man Games. I appreciate that. I'm going to be honest with you, Filta. Discussing things like this with someone like you is infuriating because you're just going to retreat to an Alamo of the fallacy of appealing to a definition. You're just running to the fact that at a technical level, they are not exactly the same. Words in the context of how they're used carry meaning. And when you say these three games are not in the same engine, no one reads that and knows what you're saying. They don't know, well, what he really means is it's actually quite nuanced, is that it's actually the same engine, but it's been updated to the point that it's a new version, and at some level is not the same engine, but at the base level it is the same engine. No one knows that you're claiming that. When you communicate and you say they're on different engines, everybody reacted to your sentence in a certain way. Do you want to know why? Because what you said communicated that they're on different engines. It's not on the Creation Engine. That's why when you said that, I was like, what? No. I was like, they're on the same engine. They're on the Creation Engine. Don't you see the reason that everybody disagreed with you is that you communicated something that everybody understood to be a particular thing? Now that you've qualified it, your original sentence doesn't even make any sense. I said it wasn't the same? No, your original statement was that they're different. which is synonymous with not the same. Your original sentence that started the entire thing was, and I quote, Skyrim, Fallout 4, and 76 are on a different engine than Starfield. That sentence isn't true. It isn't. They're on the same engine. The creation engine has been updated with a new number. That would be like saying that one Gears of War to the next is not on the same engine. That wouldn't make any sense at all. You'd be like, they're not on different engines, they're on Unreal. It's just that this is a newer version of Unreal. You just said I said it was new before you looked up what I said. You said it was new when I never said that. Okay, unlike you, I can admit that I said something that wasn't correct. Can you do that? I misspoke. I thought you were arguing it was a new engine. Somebody else must have said that. If it wasn't you, somebody else said new. Somebody said new. Your original statement that put us all on this entire, firestorm here. Oh no, hang on a minute. You did say it's a new engine. You did. You did in a roundabout way. You said, Bethesda said it themselves that it's a new engine. You said that in response to Dave Langer. I just control F'd your chat history. See how your position's incoherent, brother? In one breath, you're like, I'm not saying it's new. And then in the next breath, you're like, Bethesda said it themselves it's a new engine. You said that. Don't you see? That I saw you say that. I saw you say that in chat. I was like, oh, so you're arguing it's a new engine? You said it, not me. Don't you understand, brother? Your position's incoherent. You're all over the place. You're all over the place. In one breath, you're like, it's not a new engine. And then the next breath, you're like, Bethesda said it themselves, it's a new engine. Well, which is it? What do you believe? Come on, dude. Thank goodness for chat logs. You're bugging, bro. I never said it myself. I don't think you understand argumentation. When you countered Dave's point and you said, Bethesda said it themselves, it's a new engine. You're voicing that as if you agree with them. You didn't say that and then say that you don't agree with Bethesda. You were arguing from a position of authority. You're like, listen, Bethesda themselves, they've said it's a new engine. I can't make heads or tails of your position now. I don't know what you even think. It's not the same, but it's the same. It's not different, but it's different. It's not new, but it's new. You're like Schrodinger's position. You're Schrodinger's cat. You're both dead and alive. I don't know what you think. Genuinely don't understand your position. Todd has said over and over they don't want to change engines because they like their engine where everything in the world has permanence, and if you want to move a cup to another table. Right, which that stands on the foundational idea that it's the same engine. I was also arguing with him, so that statement is out of context. You were arguing with him about the fact that it wasn't the same engine, and now it's out of context. I'm trying to be so kind about this, homie. I really am. You understand that that's not out of context. You were actively having a debate with Dave about the fact that it's not the same engine. You supported your position by saying Bethesda themselves have said it's a new engine. And now you're saying that's out of context. What? Huh? I'm more confused than annoyed. What does that even mean? How is that out of context? You were actively trying to prove your point. Good night. I don't understand at all what you're arguing anymore. I've never said that the engine was new. I said it wasn't the same. Okay. You win. 2 + 2 = 5. I'm done arguing with you. I don't feel you're arguing in good faith. You've wasted a lot of our time with pedantic what I feel like is pedantic denial. You won't outline your position very well. You deny the fact that quoting Bethesda was to support your premise, and yet you weren't claiming it's new, which I feel is dishonest. So I'm no longer going to engage with you in this discussion because I don't trust that you're coming at it from good faith. I don't. I feel like you're just trying to argue a point and you don't care about being right or wrong. So you think 2 + 2 = 5? Great. I don't care to talk to you about it anymore. I would much rather talk about if they decide to do an offshoot Starfield Online style game. I think that's far more interesting than splitting hairs over whether or not it's a new engine. I think that's a complete waste of time. Are the online versions of these games in the same engine? And no, I'm not trolling. No, they are not, because ESO's engine is actually different. They built a proprietary engine. I believe it's called the Hero engine for the Elder Scrolls Online. This is why some people have thought that ZeniMax's current job posting is a new AAA IP, and they're building a new engine for it. And they say on their website, if you go to ZeniMaxOnline.com, join us, it says right here, this body of text is, I don't know if this is in reference to Starborn. I mean, it could be. It could be. It says, we've learned a lot bringing the world of Elder Scrolls to life, and it's time for us to take those lessons and build a new AAA IP. The vision for our next game is grand in every sense of the word, and that's why we're developing a new engine to support the needs of the project and studio. Because we're in early pre-production, this is the perfect time to join us and make your mark on the incredible project. So the vision for their next game is grand in every sense of the word. So, and this is ZeniMax Online. So they're building an online, brand new AAA IP. Now, the way the trademark reads for Starborn, it's a far-reaching trademark if you compare it to Shattered Space. Shattered Space says, it's got a handful of things that's trademarked. And then Starborn has the trademark for merch and toys, and hang on, Paul was helpful with me on this morning. There's puzzles, plush toys, card games, collectible figures, goods and services, clothing, footwear, headgear. Starborn has a significant amount of more things listed in its trademark. That, to me, sounds like Starborn could be considered a brand new IP. It's not just a DLC like Shattered Space. The trademark is more far-reaching. Maybe that's what ZeniMax is building. If they're building a brand new AAA IP, their specialties online, the proprietary engine for the Elder Scrolls Online had to be built, and now they're building a new one because their next game is grand in every sense of the word. Maybe. Freddie says, the issue is there are articles saying new engine, but I read GameRant and here's the quote. Starfield was the first game made on an updated Creation Engine 2, which features various updates. Right. That's the problem, is that that's a headline-grabbing term that everybody clicks on. And that's not what's true. Even the Creation Engine wiki describes it as an engine that has a new iteration for Starfield. So, yeah, this right here, I don't know. I originally said Starfield Online would not be considered a brand new AAA IP. Starborn could be. Starborn could be a completely separate game. It could literally just be a game. It doesn't even need to be a DLC. It could be a DLC. We have the Dragonborn DLC. It could be a standalone game. I don't know. I think to Zubair's question, let's just say, if they wanted to do an online version of Starfield, I do think they would need to leave behind the creation engine and use something else. You would need to use something that is, handcrafted and built for online interaction. If you've got two people on a ship, or people running missions together, or if you're wanting to build settlements, or whatever the case may be, because I believe, Fallout 76 is in the creation engine. And I think that's one of the reasons that the game struggles to look great. Like, it looks rough around the edges. I think if you did something that was meant to be more modern or considered more exciting, I think you would need something that feels a little bit more current gen, next gen, whatever the case may be. Freedom's Flame, is that the new war bond? Looks pretty cool. Looks very orange. Orange. Thematically orange. A current engine would detonate people's consoles if they tried to run online. Oh, the current engine. Yeah, I mean, you can play Fallout 76 right now online on the creation engine, but again, I feel like it's very clearly limited. Like, I just think there's only so much they can do with it. There's a game called Starborn already. Well, then they would have to call it Starfield Starborn then, or something like that. If there's already a game called Starborn. Starborn is a high fantasy space, pirate raid, ancient derelict ships. I don't know, it looks like that was originally called Sagaborn. And then there's Starborn Sovereign Space, but that's spelled with an E at the end of it. I don't know. They should do a new engine, but given their history, they'll slap some ID netcode on their creation engine too. Well, not if ZeniMax is handling it. I could see ZeniMax building a new engine and saying, "Hey, we've got an engine specifically built for online, like they did with the Elder Scrolls Online." Like, I think, excuse me, I think you could see something very similar with it. I played No Man's Sky last night and was like, why isn't Starfield like this? You can walk completely around the planet with no loading screens. Well, to be fair, they're completely different games, completely different engines. The reason you're able to walk around the No Man's Sky planet like that is because of how it's procedurally generated. And Starfield has specific bespoke RPG content and entire dialogue system, more dialogue lines historically than any game they've ever made. I don't think those comparisons are fair. And a 20 bomb from MASH comes in and takes us to 74 in the blink of an eye. MASH adding that many people to the community just like that. Be sure to thank MASH for those gifted members. You guys now get access to morning coffee. We start the day there with members only, and we end the day with members only. The writer's room in the Discord. Make sure you say thank you to MASH for helping that many more people jump into the community, and we're one away from me having to give 5. Every 25 members, I give 5 back to say thank you. And we are putting the weekly goal up there. Instead of having the goal constantly roll, it's like, I'll still give 5 every 25, but that's the goal for the week, is 500. And when we hit that, we will do a community game night this week with myself and Madam. There it is, a single from Force of Will, forcing me to give 5. If you guys are unfamiliar, every Friday night we do a members-only stream where my wife and I hang out with you guys, and if you hit the weekly goal, you can make us play a game with you. It turns it into a community game night, right? And now we have 77. A single comes in from Alex. Thank you. That's very much Agent of Chaos from Alex. I'm sorry, it's not 77, it's 76. Yeah, Alex was the Agent of Chaos. Yeah, every Friday night we stream no matter what. me and my wife hanging out with you and the members, but you can turn it into a community game night. So instead of just hanging out with us, you can play a game with us. You just got to hit the goal. And Broken Surprise hits a VIP renewal and takes us to 77. There we go. I watched live and it got matched. That's right. Yeah, but No Man's Sky could add a bad story on top of their game as well if they really wanted to. How do you know that? Have you had Hello Games say that? Does Hello Games, have like a deep dive into their engine? Could they build an elaborate questing system, dialogue system, story system? Can they do all of that? Can they just suddenly add a skill tree to the game with a variety of skills? What about a loot table with a bunch of different weapons and a bunch of different stats on those weapons? What about an armor system with all the different stats? Do you see what I'm saying, homie? You're kind of armchair developer right now. You don't even know that's true. One of the reasons No Man's Sky is able to do the things that it does is because it doesn't have a lot of like deep loot tables and loot systems or a skill tree or a dialogue system. It doesn't need to do any of that. There have been good story and RPG things added to No Man's Sky, but I don't feel like they're comparable. It's a very different style of experience. Listen, I think that No Man's Sky is an incredible game, but the questing and the dialogue in No Man's Sky is not built even remotely in the same way that Bethesda builds a game. They're completely different. They're not even remotely the same. LOL, No Man's Sky has quests. Yes, I know that. But listen, I'm being dead serious. I don't respect comparisons of No Man's Sky to Starfield. I don't. You're being willfully ignorant if you compare those games. You know they're not the same. They don't offer the same experience. They don't offer the same depth. They're completely and entirely different. If you're going to argue with me that No Man's Sky delivers the same level of questing, side questing, dialogue, RPG, build a character as Starfield, listen, I know you're not being real. I know you're not being genuine. Oh, you were being sarcastic. Yeah, that's not a genuine position. They're completely different games. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm saying that position's got to be either like Infinite was kidding around, so he was being facetious. But people that are actually going to say, oh yeah, No Man's Sky could do all that, there's no way to even know that. The way they build their games with the procedural generation, they could certainly do something extremely cool with quest lines and dialogue, maybe, but we don't even know. To assume that, I think, is to our peril. I think they're different games with different aims, and I think the comparisons have been largely unhelpful. I like one game significantly more than the other, but I can see with clear eyes and be like, I don't think comparing these games achieves anything. It doesn't. It would be like comparing, No Man's Sky to a top-down RPG or something. You'd be like, well, I don't have nearly as much freedom in this game. It's like they're completely different games with completely different aims as far as player experience. At some level, I wish No Man's Sky had, better looting and guns and combat, but that's not the game. That's not the game that they built. It just isn't. It's more of a space exploration sim survival game, and Starfield is an RPG in space. They're like they part ways immediately. It's like, well, yeah, there's a ship and there's planets, but they're vastly different. We've reached our quote on saying different. That's right. Now, I think you can compare the games to inform what somebody might like more. I think you can compare Starfield and No Man's Sky to establish, like, hey, you might like this game more than this game. But I don't think comparing them to act like, oh yeah, No Man's Sky is so much better, it could do that stuff if it really wanted to. I don't know if that's true. The dialogue in Cyberpunk that would be like saying, well, No Man's Sky is so much better than Cyberpunk because I can go to so many different locations. And it's like, but Cyberpunk has a very, very in-depth questing system, side quest system, loot table, RPG building, significant thing that they updated and changed for Phantom Liberty. And then there's the entire dialogue system. Those types of comparisons. The main difference is that Starfield lets you go to like different planets. I think Starfield's more comparable to Cyberpunk than No Man's Sky. We'll find out what No Man's Sky can do with some of that stuff in Light No Fire. If they can pull it off, maybe they can move some of that to No Man's Sky later. I believe they've already moved some of the technology from No Man's Sky into Light No Fire with respect to the water and the mountains and stuff. Yeah. Starfield is so mission story-based that most of its missions come from walking past conversations. I enjoy the realistic aesthetic of Starfield more. I feel like No Man's Sky is trying to look more realistic, but... Hey, we are in the final stretch of the show, which means it's now your show more than it's my show, which means we can do Q&A. And I actually think this should be a member perk. I'm going to make this a member perk. Executive decision right now. We have enough members. We have people gifting members that if you want to submit a question, exclamation point question, it can be about anything in gaming, and it'll show up here. And if you're like, oh, I'm not a member, the more you watch, the more likely you'll get a member, and that's a reason to consider supporting the channel directly. You get extra content, extra features, stuff in the Discord, a place to hang out, and this is just one more aspect of why being a member here is giving you a lot of extras. So, like any command in chat, it's just exclamation point question, then put a space, and then put your question. You think we're getting a DLC this year? I think Shattered Space, yes, is coming this year. They've stated that. So I don't know. The thing that I would like to know about Shattered Space is, do I need to complete the game first in order to play it? It seems to be positioned in a way where it is an offshoot thing. It's like its own contained area, place, location. So I don't know if you're going to you'll need to be far enough in the game to like travel and have a ship, but I don't necessarily think they're going to be like, oh yeah, you got to complete the entire game. Donnie, you troll. I'm not putting that up on the screen. Donnie from Pure Dead Gaming being a troll out here. Sneaky Wolf with the first question says, is there any confirmation on Light No Fire having crossplay? A real easy way to check that would be to go to the Light No Fire Steam page. That probably has the most, technical information about it. It says single player online co-op. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything here that would indicate crossplay just yet. Is No Man's Sky crossplay? How is cross-platform for No Man's Sky here? Here's what I would say. Make sure your friends are on your platform. It's the same platform. You can play together if both players are in the same game mode. So you have normal... So it looks like No Man's Sky is crossplay. Yeah. So if No Man's Sky is crossplay, I would say then that, yes, Light No Fire is likely then also going to be crossplay. I believe they're building it on a lot of the base systems and base lessons and things that they have learned from No Man's Sky. So I think that's a fair... it's a fair guess at this point to say that it will be. So, appreciate the question. Appreciate you guys taking part in the final 30 minutes of the show. Is it's something for the members to enjoy and to submit questions And let's go to the next question. Severin Evans says, Loner, are you going to get a Steam Deck OLED? Oh, yeah, we had crossplay with our Community Planet. That's right. I don't know. I think my biggest issue with the Steam Deck is the PlayStation Portal solves a problem for me. And that problem is I only have 2 televisions. When both of the kids are playing, I can play, or I can play with one of them. And again, I'm on the Portal. It also helps on a Friday night. If Madam and I are both going to play Fall Guys, she can play right here on this monitor right here in front of me, and then I can just play on the Portal. The Steam Deck doesn't solve any problems for me. If I wanted to play Steam games and not sit in my office, I would just turn on the gaming rig in the living room. You know what I mean? The Steam Deck doesn't solve any of my current gaming needs. Oh, but you could play Hades 2. Yeah, I would want to play Hades 2 on my television. Does that make sense? So when I use the Portal, I'm either away from my home or it solves the lack of a monitor for me. Like whenever my wife and I would try and play games in here, like when we tried to play Returnal together, I had to set up a whole separate monitor for her. It was a nightmare. So being able to just be like, nope, I've got my Portal right here, that's a huge, huge help. It'd be good to play co-op indies in the living room. No, it wouldn't. No, I don't need that. I could turn on a gaming rig in my living room and play a co-op indie game right then and there. I have a gaming rig in my living room. A Steam Deck doesn't solve any of my gaming needs. It doesn't. I would much rather have an Xbox with the side-loaded Steam Marketplace like we're hearing rumors about than a Steam Deck. A Steam Deck would not get used. It would sit in the box. I would never touch it. Now, if I was traveling a lot like I used to and taking trips and sitting on planes, on a regular basis, then I might consider it for sure. I might, because then I could have something to game on the go, truly game on the go. Typically, I prefer reading or watching a series or a movies or something that I haven't been able to watch when I travel. I'm usually not traveling thinking, man, I'd love to put in a gaming session right now. That's just not where my mind goes. My mind is like, oh, I can watch a movie or a series that I know my wife wouldn't enjoy, and now I've got some time to myself. Or I want to read, like, there's so many books I want to read. Like, I would just end up reading probably. I'm glad that people love the Steam Deck, but I find it weird how people who love the Steam Deck want everyone else to love the Steam Deck. I've noticed that a handful of times. People are like, why wouldn't you get one? Why wouldn't you get one? You would love one. And it's like, it doesn't solve any of my problems. It doesn't meet a need. It doesn't. It would just sit there. So if it's meeting a need with you and it's solving a problem for you, then that's great. Like a lot of people look at the PlayStation Portal and they think the same thing. They're like, that's the stupidest thing ever. Why would I need that? Okay, are you a bachelor and do you game 90% of the time at home? Okay, then sure, you wouldn't need it. But in my scenario, it solves multiple problems. So I think it just depends on the person. Nova Hands with a question says, if Starfield goes MMO like ESO, what fundamental changes do you think they would need to make for it to be successful? I mean, I think they would have to completely abandon the idea of having this like overarching, super meaningful quest for the individual. It would need to become more, I don't know if this is going to make sense. It would need to become more mission-based than quest-based. When I hear quest, that's interwoven with like compelling narrative. When I hear mission, it's like, well, what's the objective? What are we doing? Oh, we got to go there and kill stuff. Oh, we got to go there and harvest stuff. Oh, we got to go there and take over this thing. Oh, we got to go there and search and find this crazy boss. Like, mission-based versus quest-based, at least in my mind, is the difference between, like, in Skyrim, you go on a quest. In ESO, you're doing missions. I'm not saying those are the terms that they use. I'm just saying, in my mind, that's how I envision it. When I, play with somebody in Helldivers 2, we're just going on a mission. I'm not embarking on a quest, if that makes sense. So I would think if you were going to do Starfield as a live service game like ESO, it's more mission-based. Now, you can have tiers and levels of content, right? You can have aspirational content, really, really hard missions, raids, whatever. But I like that mission versus quest breakdown. That's just how my mind thinks about it. It's like you have your main quest and your side quest. That's typically, again, that's just in my mind as I'm playing a game with a meaningful story that has main quests and side quests. When I'm playing a game and none of that stuff matters, I'm going on missions. You know, First Descendant, I'm going on missions. Now, Destiny, there was like a clear sort of convergence of the two. You had the campaign, which felt like that was the quest, go kill Oryx. But then you had the content, the missions, the strikes, the whatever it is you're just going to loop through every week, your bounties, your Court of Oryx. Well, those are missions. That's not necessarily terminology that Destiny used, but again, that's just the way my brain kind of puts things into categories and compartments. Starfield doesn't have dungeons. It's entirely quest-based. I didn't say that it did. I said that if you had a mission-based Starfield Online game, you could then do aspirational content like that. Oh, you're saying they need aspirational content. Okay, I was going to say, yeah, I didn't say that. I was saying that was something you would... I think you would need that more in an online, ongoing game, Nova. I don't necessarily know if when I play an RPG that I need dungeons or aspirational content. I'm just trying to think. I feel like in games like that, they're crescendo moments. They're moments that sort of accent the cadence, are normally like bosses. Oh, you were agreeing with me. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you would put that, though, in a single-player RPG. Like, did Cyberpunk need aspirational content? Or did it have fights and environments and bosses and stuff that just got harder the more you played? Anyways. Oh, that was your question, Novahan. So you were interacting with me based on it being your question. Sorry, I misunderstood why you said that. Citizen JV says, if Starfield does come to PS5, do you think it could run better than on the Xbox X or S? Yes, because personally, and we covered this when this update hit, when they added all of those performance options, they very much mirrored a lot of the performance options that we have seen hit first-party PlayStation games. And we've also seen games come to PlayStation and run better, even if by a little bit of a margin in Hi-Fi and Sea of Thieves. So a game like Starfield, an even better question would be as well, are they going to try to tap into the PS5 Pro? I especially liked how Digital Foundry was laughing at the people who are leaving comments and saying the PS5 Pro isn't real. I think been another enjoyable development in that narrative. But that would be another question: is are they going to tap into the PS5 Pro and give you a version of Starfield that is only available in the console realm, only available on the Pro? So surely that type of question isn't motivated by console warring, but it will likely get distorted into that. At this point, I avoid certain subjects just because I'm not interested in that fight anymore. I just don't care. Objectively, I think one platform has a more consistent and better performance in their games, and it also has received games that perform better that are first-party Xbox titles. Those are objective facts from technical breakdowns, which I think would lead one to conclude that trend will likely continue. So if somebody thinks that's like console warring or grifting, I don't know what to tell you. I just think that's a very, very factual way of looking at things. So Butters says, so PSVR 2 at $350 plus probably $100 or so for $450 for the adapter, or the Quest at $500. Have you tried both? What do you think will be better for first-time users on PC? Oh gosh. I think the Quest would be more approachable from a size perspective. Like, I think when people look at the PSVR 2, it's kind of big. I think the PSVR 2 is more comfortable. I also feel like its quality is better, as far as like how it looks. But as far as like a brand new user, I don't know. I mean, the simplicity of just plugging in the Quest. I also think there's advantages to the Quest 3 because you can plug it into your PC, but it's also a really, really great standalone unit. I was really enjoying Asgard's Wrath 2. So as a standalone VR unit, I think you kind of get the best of both worlds. Like if somebody was like, hey, I'm considering getting a VR unit right now for my PC. I'm choosing between the PSVR 2 and the Quest 3. I would say, I think you should get the Quest 3 because you get both. You can plug it into your PC, or you can go stand in your living room and play a game of bowling, or play a boxing game, or play Asgard's Wrath 2. I think the PSVR 2 would make more sense as a purchase if you already have a PlayStation 5, because then it would serve two purposes. You could play VR games on the PSVR 2, you could play games on your PC. If they have a PC and they're just looking for a VR unit, I think the Quest 3 makes more sense. It is a little bit more expensive, but not by much. So, I think the standing with no cables in an open area playing a VR game, that has been my favorite VR experience. Now, I've played a lot more VR games on my PSVR 2, but when I was playing Asgard's Wrath 2 in an open area in my entertainment space, I actually think I liked that more. It just felt better. There was something more immersive about not having a cable. Well, you can get the cable and run it along your ceiling and with the pulley system and nope, not doing that. Right? The average consumer's like, nope, not doing that. So I think the MetaQuest 3 makes more sense at that point if they're brand new. Answer I was expecting, but still want to see your take on it being on PC. Yeah, I think it being on PC is a great ad for PlayStation owners, but it's not a great ad for somebody getting into VR for the first time. So Severin Evans says, you're aware that Steam Deck official dock, right? Me and my brother use it to play Cuphead together in his living room. I have a gaming rig in my living room. So it's probably stronger than the Steam Deck. It's got a 2080 in it. So that wouldn't be compelling to me. If I was on a budget and didn't have a secondary gaming rig, I would say maybe. I would say maybe to what you just proposed. But in my current situation, again, it doesn't solve any problems. I am not currently unable to play Steam games in my living room. I'm not unable. I just prefer to not do it the way that it's set up. I just turn the computer on, log in, make sure everything's updated. It's barely ever used. Okay, I got my wireless mouse. Okay, we got cables run for the controllers. No, thank you. The minute you add extra steps to anything, I check out. I've got a backlog of games I can play on either console if I feel like it. Mostly on PlayStation, but there are even like RoboQuest. I kind of wish I had sometimes I wish I had a second Xbox so my wife and I could play RoboQuest, because that's a really fun shooter rogue that you should definitely check out on Game Pass and Steam. Ghost14 with a question. Starfield and Dragon's Dogma don't hand you side missions, but you have to explore to find them. This is great for exploration purposes, but can also leave a lot undiscovered. Thoughts? Okay, so you want my thoughts on the fact that these two games hand you side missions, but you have to explore to find them. This is great for... okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, if I'm going to err on the side of one... Because basically what you're arguing against is maybe the antithesis would be, well, they don't make you explore to find side quests. They just sort of tell you with exclamation points, hey, this person has a side quest, and you walk over and you get rid of all the yellow exclamation points. I'm here to tell you, I would much rather discover side quests and side missions out while I'm exploring than have 8 exclamation points in town. Because that adds exploratory purpose. When you stumble upon something, ports for controllers, that's a bit hyperbolic there. No, it's not. That's how I would have to set it up. The rig out there doesn't have Bluetooth. Oh, let me buy a Bluetooth dongle. It's not hyperbolic. It's accurate and objectively true for my gaming experience. I'm not exaggerating. That's what I would have to do. So if you discover a quest, if you discover something in the open world, I prefer that to, hey, go out there on your main quest. And you're like, thank you. And then you walk by somebody like, could you lend a hand, sir? And you're like, oh, yellow exclamation point. Let me grab that. You walk 10 more feet. I need help finding my dog. And you're like, oh, let me grab that. Exclamation point. Keep going. Hello, I lost my keys. And you're like, oh, okay, Jiminy frickin' Christmas. Like, I would much rather, like you're saying, oh, it leaves a lot undiscovered. Yeah, but still, exploratory purpose, I think, is more enjoyable than like, oh, I just grabbed 18 side quests in town and now I'm going to go do them. There's something about stumbling upon a person, an NPC, a cave or something, or a sword or a note, and then it leads to and then it leads to like a side quest. This man has a PC without Bluetooth. I never want to hear a comment about his lavish lifestyle ever again. Well, Bluetooth commonly doesn't work for me. I've got a rig right here. I've never ever been able to pair it with these headphones, and it has Bluetooth in it. I don't know why. There were times in the past where I tried to pair Xbox controllers through Bluetooth to either of my rigs. I've got a gaming rig and a streaming rig, and I couldn't get it to work. I'm telling you, the Windows Bluetooth interface is terrible. All the guides I read about these Bose headphones were like, oh, buy a dongle, buy a dongle. I'm like, what the frick? So it's like, I don't know what's wrong with the internal Bluetooth in this streaming rig. Do you think I care to figure that out? No. Lono just described my perfect game. Putting it out in the world is better for replayability when you go through another playthrough. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. It's a driver issue. Always is. Always is. John always with a question. If Starborn is the ESO of Starfield, are we assuming it's multiplat? Yes. Oh, yes. 100%. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ant gifts a member and takes it to 78, taking us real close to 100 as we work on that weekly goal. We have changed by just putting the weekly goal here, so it's not constantly rolling. That's for the whole week. Thank you, Ant. But yeah, it'll be multiplat because Starfield's going to be multiplat. So. Darren says, my wife's new to gaming. Can you recommend some easier co-op games? She really wants to be part of my hobby that I love. Thanks. Oh, shoot. I mean, if she has any nostalgic attachment to games at all, like the Turtles Shredder's Revenge game was really straightforward and fun. Castle Crashers. I feel like Castle Crashers got a little sweaty, though. Like, I remember not playing for very long before it got kind of hard. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. The Lego games. Let me turn off the timer. The Lego games are really straightforward and fun. You know, the Lego Skywalker Saga. Yeah, Overcooked's very contained and fun, and you can kind of laugh as you play it. Yeah, I feel like It Takes Two, you might want to wait and get her acclimated to a game with 3D space first. It Takes Two assumes a certain amount of adept, It Takes Two expects you to have a certain amount of gaming experience in like a 3D space. Moving around a 3D space can be very challenging for somebody who's brand new to gaming. And It Takes Two had a lot of platforming that really frustrated my wife, and my wife did not like that part of it. She hates platforming, and my wife has been playing games with me since Borderlands 1. So I would be careful with It Takes Two. It Takes Two is good for someone who doesn't play. I'm telling you right now, my wife has played video games with me since Borderlands 1, and It Takes Two has a lot of challenging sections with platforming and timing. And it assumes that you just know how to navigate a three-dimensional space with a certain amount of efficiency. Yeah. I would say if you're going to play It Takes Two, you're going to want to swap roles. Make her play as the guy. Because I feel like the wife in that game, the girl character in that game, consistently has more challenging jobs than the guy. maybe that was kind of a prank that they played on couples, knowing that like the trend of dudes that were going to be like, hey babe, let's play this game, and if she doesn't play as many games, you know, she's going to consistently have the harder jobs. Like, I don't know. Personal experience. My personal experience with It Takes Two is a little bit different than that. Like, again, I'm not saying it's a bad co-op suggestion. I'm saying I think the game is built on a lot of foundational gamer knowledge. And if she's brand new to gaming, just moving around a three-dimensional space and controlling a camera, that can be a lot for somebody. So you just kind of have to feel that out. Like, is she comfortable in a three-dimensional space, taking a character and running and jumping and navigating a camera and looking up and down? Like, there's a lot going on in It Takes Two. Severin Everin says, I have a PS5, Series X, Nintendo Switch, and PC. I believe you do also, right, but my PC library is the biggest. My main place to play, Legion and Rogue Ally, are also options too. That's not a question. Lucas Rodriguez says, going back to an earlier topic, do you feel that subscription services can be an incentive enough to update single-player games longer, or is it irrelevant? Updates give exposure to the game. I mean, Pete Hines said something about this before he left, and I think we have our answer in the fact that the studio got closed down. So he was talking about Redfall. I don't know if I agree. Like, I don't think like subservice or Game Pass, I don't think that like lends itself to, yeah, in 7 years we're going to be just plugging away, adding DLC to Starfield. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that's like a ground, because you, like I said, you have to be able to justify the work. Like, if you're going to be making substantive content every year for a game, I just don't know. To me, it's like, is that, are they going to be able to justify that? Are they going to make enough money on a single player game 5 years in? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know very many single players that have done it because of just probably the relevancy factor. It's just, it gets harder and harder to sell content to the people who bought your game. So I don't know. I just continue to feel like if they're going to be doing any kind of ongoing updates for Starfield for 10 years, it's going to include some measure of online multiplayer live service influence. So AOZ says, with the new direction of Disney blurring the lines with the Sith being evil, how do you feel about Star Wars games with the Sith protagonist? Yeah, I obviously don't want to get into a discussion about Disney Star Wars and how it's largely pretty terrible, but I would say that a great game that I've even asked for, a great game that I've asked for is one with Trilla from Fallen Order, like a prequel to how she, you know, got turned into the dark side, and then you would level up at the dark side and get more strong, and then it would kind of end with her, you know, finding Cal, and that would kind of be the end of the game. That was a question. I asked you what platforms you owned. No, you didn't. I mean, this isn't really a question. I have a PS5, Series X, Nintendo Switch, and PC. I believe you do also, right? Yes, I do. That's not a question. That's just asking. That's a yes or no question. That's like saying, Lono, do you have glasses? Yes, I do. Like, we know this. I mean, most people, maybe you don't. I mean, maybe people listening don't know this, but I don't know what you want me to say to, yeah, I have a PS5, Series X, Nintendo Switch, and PC. You're just saying your library is the biggest on Steam. I was like, okay. I mean, that's not a question. Like, I'm not sure what you want me to say in response. What information were you looking for other than a yes? Yep, I have those platforms. Yep, cool. Like, I don't know. Were you wanting to know more? You gotta elaborate a little bit. I don't know what you're trying to get at. Severin says, I have a TP-Link Bluetooth card. Do you want it? I'm serious. My motherboard has Wi-Fi built into it. Don't need it if you want it. No. I don't need it. I won't use it. Yeah, I'm not like dying to play Steam, you know, co-op games. Yes, Lono, I did. Homie, are we? You're gonna make me do this? You're gonna make me point out the fact that this is not a question? That's not a question. You stated what you had. You're like, I believe you have that also, right? Yes, I do. As we continue reading, my PC library is the biggest and my main place to play. Legion Go and Rogue Ally are also options too. That's not an inquiry for information. I don't know what you want me to say in response to this. Old school Lono with Q&A would have eviscerated you for this. This isn't a question. I don't know what you want me to say. Elaborate. Like, what information are you looking for, my man? Like, yep, I have those platforms, and you think these are great options. All right, cool. Great. Okay. I don't know what you want me to say. I really don't. I made it very clear. I don't think a portable solves problems that I'm currently faced with. I'm not sitting around like, man, I really wish I could game on the tram or the train or the plane. Like, I'm just not. I'm here, and then I'm in writer's room, and then I'm making videos, and then I'm hanging out with my family. I'm never in a situation where I'm like, yo, I would just kill for a Rogue Ally right now. You know what I mean? It just, I don't currently have a need for it. It would be like trying to sell me a snowblower. The random amount of times in the year we get a good amount of snow where I live, it's like, yeah, it's fine. You know? I sometimes miss old school Lono. I mean, I'm trying to be nice. It's like, it's not a question. I mean, I like Severin. Severin's here a lot. It's like, if you want more information from me, you feel free to elaborate. I'm not sure if you were trying to ask me something. You have a PlayStation, right? I think God of War and The Last of Us are so cool. Yeah. I was like, okay. Yeah, man, me too. I don't know what you want me to say. Let me set up writer's room. It is noon. You guys have a little bit of time if you want to make a quick scramble to bring people with us and get us a little bit closer. You guys are going to have a tough time turning Friday night into community game night. You're going to have a steep hill to climb Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But you guys have scrambled before and gotten 20 members at the buzzer. Let's see if you can do it. Now, let me reuse the settings here for the writer's room. I don't miss old school Lono. That guy was mean, and I hear he blocked doorways. Did you know that when you're 5'6" and you barely weigh 150 pounds, you can block exits? Did you know you can do that? That's my superpower. That's my superpower. You get that and it's fine, never mind it. Yeah, if you wanted my thoughts on something, just got to elaborate, if you wanted me to comment on something. I mean, I've pretty much already stated, like, I just don't think a Steam Deck or a ROG or anything like that is solving any problems for me, Oh, let's set this. Oh, come on. All right, let me give you guys a link to the writer's room. I sat in an airport and played League for like 5 hours. I was in Philly for a job interview, and they told me I didn't get it, so I had no desire to explore the city. You're 6'4", 250. Let's arm wrestle. Yeah. Let's do it. All right, let me provide you guys a link. A RTS Rex becomes a member plus right here at the buzzer. He takes us to 79 members on the day. Thank you so much. If you guys do pick up a membership on your own, be sure to pick up Member Plus. It takes you out of the gifting member pool. It gets you into more content like the Green Room on Fridays. And we are trying to get 1,000 people to be at Member Plus or higher. We currently have about 450 at Member Plus or higher. So consider upgrading. It supports me directly, grows the community. So I get it. PC's not your main place to play. Yeah, I just don't have a large desire to main PC. When I mained PC, there was a reason. You want to know what it was? 60 FPS. And I get that on my console. I'm a man of simple tastes. You know, I went from Xbox to maining PC to now primarily playing on a PS5. So whenever I get accused of being some, pony grifter console war guy, I'm like, you're free to think something that's not true. I guess that's your choice if that makes you feel better about things. But I literally have gone from every platform driven by my own preferences. And the freedom of being driven by your preferences as opposed to brand loyalty, I think, is far superior to being like, well, I'm going to stick it out with this platform or defend this platform. It's like, nah. I left behind Xbox and mained PC because I wanted 60. And RTS Rex gifts a member and sets it up. I don't know if anybody's going to take this bait at the dunker, but I greatly appreciate it. 80 members on the way to the goal of 500. We'll see if anybody slams home the 20 bomb. Very kind of you, RTS Rex, to do that. And Mash says, I'll get us halfway there. He gets us halfway there with the 10 bomb and takes us to 90. Thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate it. When my FPS drops to 60, I get annoyed. I'll give you guys a teeny bit of time. Mash set it up. I'm not going to give you for very long. I've already got Writer's Room set up and ready to go. We're getting out of here. You're a 10 bomb away from 100. I'll drop 5 and we'll get out of here. If anybody wants to take the bait, or 2 5 bombs. Thank you again for doing that, Mash. Listen, guys, if you just got a gifted member from Mash, be sure to say thank you. Good to see B Nipple get one. I appreciate that very, very much. Yeah, and I answered all the questions. We got to the bottom of the Q&A queue. So thank you, everybody who submitted a question very, very much. And Mash is going to do it on his own. This man, this absolute madman, gets us a fifth of the way there. That looks a little bit nicer, doesn't it? That 100 out of 500. And another 5 bomb comes in, and here's a 5 bomb from me. We'll get a bunch of members, and then we'll head off to the members-only writer's room. Thank you so much for dropping another 5 bomb, Silent Spartan. I appreciate that so much. Moving things along. And there's the 5 from me. Let me clear out the question queue so then it's ready for tomorrow. Thanks everybody who participated in some members only Q&A. All right, let me spam the link one more time. All right, that's where we're headed. Thank you guys so much. I need to go live in the writer's room. Give me a second here. Thanks so much for being a member, and you may have been gifted a member this week. 105 members on the week. Well on our way to the 500 goal for the entire week. And when you get gifted a membership, you get access to the writer's room. We also start every day in morning coffee with members. So be sure to turn on notifications. Man, get in the Discord. That's something else you get access to. Also, to all members, a continued call to bump up to Member Plus and above. If you've been paying for your own membership or you've been getting gifteds for a very, very long time, consider doing that. Bump up to Member Plus. It's $1 more. It's $6 a month. We want to see that number hit 1,000. We want 1,000 people at Member Plus and above, and we'll start doing IRL streams on the weekend to hang out with members. So consider doing that. And let me end the previous stream and bring people over and change that thumbnail. And then Fuzzy's got a clip for me for the mic crackling. Is it actually happening?